All right, this is your boy D back with another video on You Can Be Free. I got my brother in Christ, Mikey, with us today with a powerful testimony. First time we talked, no lie, we was on the phone for like 3 hours talking about God, talking about his story. It's really similar to my testimony. So when I was talking to him, I was telling it made me kind of feel like I was talking to someone from back home that I grew up with because of his personality and also for his heart for God too, man. I've already heard a little bit of this story, but I know I'm always gonna, every time I hear a testimony for the second go around, it's always like find out something new that I didn't know before. But for anybody who clicked on this video, I just want to encourage y'all. This is a powerful story. So just watch it to the end. Mikey, I'm just gonna pass it to you, man. Just start from whatever part of your life that you want to start from. Or you can just you can let the viewers know just a little bit about you. They know your name, but just like where you from, all that good stuff.
All right, well, I'm Michael. They call me Mikey. It's a little nickname I used to have. I placed it on Facebook. But I was born in Sarasota, Florida. Probably around the age of 13. My mother found a church, and it was in Cleveland, Tennessee. Um, Norva Hayes was the head of it. I think it was, I forget the guy's name, Alan. He was like the co-pastor. So my mom had went for a revival for a month and came back, and I guess she just decided, I want to move. I want to join the church and I want to move to Tennessee. So we, at 13, I'm gonna say 12. I was 12 years old. We moved from Sarasota, Florida to Cleveland, Tennessee. And at the time, it was like I was just started my role, who I was. Like, I had certain friends in Florida. I had my girlfriend. I was playing sports. I had a group of people I was going to, and this little church group that I was joined with. So everything was established at that young age. I already had who I was. Oh, these are my people. I'm going to be hanging with them till past whatever. And we moved to Cleveland, Tennessee, and it shook me because I had to start all over. And so I started 8th grade, and I wasn't really like a people person. I had anger problems that I had to deal with. I guess it comes from my father, like trying to be attached to him and getting rejected so much from him. So it turned, like, every time I go to my father for love, he didn't know how to raise kids. So I would try to go to him for love, and it turned into him being like, "Oh, stop being soft." So I thought being a man was being hard all the time. So when we get to Cleveland, that's how I did my business. Anytime I met somebody, it was like anger. I was always into something. So I was picked on because not only that, my anger problem, I was smaller than everybody else. So I was picked on so much, I was like, I got to learn to fight. I have to learn to defend myself. So that's what I started doing. I started hanging around people that knew how to fight, started doing boxing, and it just went a spiral from there. I started hanging around with the wrong people after that. I was just trying to figure out how to be a man without my father being there. I just tried to figure out, what do I need to do? Is this what you're supposed to do to be a man? Every time I looked at a guy, I would say, is that what a man's supposed to be? Every time I looked at a grown man, I was like, is that what a man's supposed to be? I would try to mimic what he did. And most of the time, it was the wrong men that be around. So a lot of things happened. I started hanging. I was never in a gang, but I hung around a lot of gang members, a lot of people that were gangs, different gangs, folk, Bloods, Crips. It's all mixture in Tennessee. So I would hang around with everybody, but I never joined the gang. I just didn't like rules. I wasn't a rule guy. I couldn't follow rules. So um, I just got into it. Was a down spiral. I'm not gonna get into every detail of what I did, but it was just a down spiral from there. I was constantly fighting, constantly doing the wrong things. Couldn't pay attention in school. I wasn't dumb. I was just acting out. So most of that time, I was really trying to get my mother to say, "I'm sending you back to your daddy in Florida." That was my motive to acting out constantly when I was younger. It never worked. So um, at the end, after I graduated, I got really deep into it. After I became an adult, I got really deep into it. That's when I was like, okay, now I'm free. I don't have my mother to tell me what to do. I don't have no father. Nobody has control over me. Now I'm a man now. I just thought when I turned 18, I'm a man, I can do whatever I want. That's when it really got bad because now the world opened up to me. My mama kind of secluded me or held me back from certain things. You know what I mean? Like certain consequences of things. And then I just got out into the real world and started realizing, oh, this ain't what I thought it was going to be. So I had to harden up at that time, get worse, kept getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. And I don't know how I met a group of friends. I had a group of friends. I was like probably 20 years old, and we started getting into music a lot. I already had a love for music, but I never took the time to say this is what I want to do. But when I got with them, they love music so much it brought out that talent. Like, okay, I love music, I want to do it. So that's what we were doing constantly, smoking weed and making music constantly. Um, at like 22, the age of 22, I met this woman who was my first baby mother, and we were having sex outside of marriage, doing the wrong things, and she became pregnant. Um, so I didn't know what to do. It was my first time having to deal with this. I had two sisters who already had kids, but I didn't know what to do. And because my mother and my daddy broke up, I thought it was important to keep families together. You know what I mean? So when she told me she was pregnant, I called my mother, and I remember my mother saying, um, "You need to marry her. You might want to marry her." So I did that. I just asked her to marry me. She told me she was pregnant. Um, Probably 20. It was about 23 years old. I was about 23, maybe a little about to turn 24, and I had I had already established myself in Cleveland, Tennessee. So I had a lot of friends at the time. We just became popular. As soon as my family moved to Tennessee, I was real bad, but it really made me more popular being that bad, being that angry and wild. A lot of people gravitated towards us. It's like favor almost. Everywhere we go, it happened. And we knew everybody. And one of the friends, I knew him since he was younger. His brother was in prison, and before his brother left, me and his brother were real close. Before his brother went to prison, he said, "Man, just look out for my brother. Make sure he's safe." So I made it like that's my job to do. Every time I see him, "What are you doing?" People he was hanging out with, I would always check, "Man, why are you hanging out with him?" It was always, you know what I mean? I always brought him over. "Come on, do this music with us. Come to the studio, hang out." I was trying to keep him out of trouble. He was real hot headed, almost the same as me. Like he was picked on and he became a fighter. So he would fight at the drop of a dime and be quick. So I would try to keep him away from that because I already knew what come after it. I had been through it. So I knew what was coming. Even though I was young, I knew what he was going through. He was younger than me. So I knew, okay, I see him. We used to make him fight back in the day when he was younger. But we were at the park one day and he was hanging around. I'm not gonna get into details of who this person that is all based around. He's now saved, so I'm not gonna bring his name up and tell you everything detailed. But anyway, they had planned to rob these guys, so they bring them to the park, and they were gonna rob them. And I tried to stop them. I was like, "Bro, I wouldn't get involved with it." That's what I told him. I wouldn't get involved with none of that. We don't know these people. You don't know what they can do. And he was like, "No, I got this." And he wound up running over there, punching the guy, and the guy pulls a pistol out and starts to fire. There were probably 12 of us at the park. And I don't know if he was trying to kill everybody, but I know, like, I remember hiding behind my car, and I heard my real younger brother's voice. I heard his voice. I don't know how I did because he was farther away, but I heard his voice, and I go to look, and I can see I was in like a fear. I see the gun pointed towards me, and I can see the light flashing off of a gun. I don't know if you ever seen a gun go out, but there's a flash, and it was like slow motion reaction I had. And my friend Big Joe, he was down at the bottom, ducking behind the car, and he says, "Mike, what you doing?" He pulled my shirt, which like jerked me back into reality. Like, oh, I gotta get out of here. So I go to run, turn and run, and my friend, who I said was the youngest of us and I raised, his brother was in prison. He bumped me, and so he was like going in front of me. He bumped me, and so I just started running behind him, and I see him go to look, and he just grabs his chest. Now, in my mind at the time, I hadn't knew what was going on. It was like adrenaline rushing, trying to, you know what I mean? It's so much stuff going on, people running, screaming. I didn't know what was going on. And I knew he was tough. So I see him go to fall, and I just grab his shirt, like, so he don't fall face down. I thought he tripped. And when I stopped to look over him, I could see him pushing himself up. So I was like, okay, he's fine. He's fine. I keep running. And I get like probably 10 steps away from him, and I can hear people screaming his name. So I turn around and look, and he was face down with his hands to his side. My friend Big Joe, he picks him up and he's dragging him towards the car. So I was like, "Don't drag him, don't drag him." We had a friend that he was a barber. He was like the town barber. He lived across the street. He had heard what was going on. He ran over and he was like, "Don't move him. It's the worst thing you could do is not move him." He had been hit in his chest. And at the time, I didn't know yet until he lay. So, but anyway, I laid down next to my car and I put him in my lap, and I can see him. His eyes were open. He was still alive. And because I never seen like death in front of me like that. I've seen people get hit. I never seen them die in front of me. I've seen stuff like this happen, shootouts, but I haven't seen anybody this close to me die. Like, it's like death was happening in front of me. So I didn't know how to react. I just automatically thought, "You're gonna be okay. He's gonna be fine." And I kept telling him, "You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine." And because the way my mama raised me, heaven and hell were like a big thing for me. Like, I believed in it. I knew it was, even though I wasn't living the right life at that time, I believed in heaven and hell. I believe there's a heaven and there's a hell. And I felt like he was going to go to hell. So I was like, "Bro, tell Jesus you sorry. Tell Jesus you're sorry." I wasn't like, "Oh, look, ask him forgive you." I wasn't preaching to him. I just wanted the quickness, like, "You got to do it now." And I can see him trying to speak. I don't know what he wanted to say, and I don't want to speculate what he was trying to say to me, but I know he was trying to speak. And I can look in his eyes, and it was like his eyes were telling me, I'm gone. He's done. So he died. He passed away right there in my arms. And at the time, I had nobody that I could. It was so crushing to me. And I couldn't find an outlet. I couldn't find anybody to be like, go to talk to. "Hey, what do I do? Just one of my best friends died in front of me. What do I do?" I couldn't sleep. There were days, like 3 days go by, no sleep, which that doesn't ever happen for me. I always sleep. And I just couldn't. I was constantly thinking about revenge. These people got to die. They got picked up. I don't know if it was that night, the guys who shot them that night or the night before, after, but I was still on revenge. So I was pulling up to where I didn't know the guys specifically, but I knew what gang they were in. So I knew, and there's a place in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I knew that they were there around that place is where they got put in the gang. So I just showed up there. There was rumors going around saying, "We looking for the witnesses." And even though I never gave my name up to the witness stand, and I never talked to the police because I just already knew, I learned from OGs, like, don't tell anything. I was thinking about revenge. I knew I was going to have to get these people. But I used to pull up to the neighborhood and sit there for hours waiting for somebody. I don't know who I was waiting for, but I was.
Mikey, I lost you there for a second. You still with us?
And I had a
So right now, right now you're cutting in and out. I don't know if you can hear me, but the compute, like it's almost like you're froze up. Can you hear
my
me?
friend gave me before he got love.
I don't know what's wrong with the computer, but you're frozen right now. Yeah, you're still frozen. All right, guys, just we're going here he go. Here he back. He back. He back. He back. He back. Yeah, say
Can you
something.
hear me? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a storm going out over here. I think the power. I seen the lights go off, flicker, and I think it cut off the Wi-Fi. So I might have to run without it.
Okay.
But you can hear me, right?
Yeah. You're good now. So take us back. So you had just lost a friend. He pretty much died in your arms. And then you had said, now this isn't when you're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You had said that you went back to kind of look for revenge on the people that killed your friend. So take us back from that part.
Okay, so I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was from Chattanooga,
Okay.
and I don't know how he knew of the guys, but he knew their families and everything, and he told me where the aunt was. So I'm not like a violent going after people type of person. I don't do that. It's not me. You know what I mean? I only protect myself. Like something comes to me, that's how what I do. I protect myself. But this time I was in such turmoil, I didn't know what to do. I was crushed. I never felt like this before in my life. And I was thinking violence was the only way to fix it. I was so mad. And I was like, violence is the only way it's gonna fix this. That's what my thinking process was. And I sat outside of a house that my friend said his aunt lived in. The guy that was driving, there was a driver and a shooter. The guy that was driving, his aunt lived at this house. And I was sitting outside this house waiting for somebody to come out. And I don't know who the lady was. I'm thinking it was her aunt. It just gave me a feeling of aunt. She never explained who she was, but she walked out and walks to the car where I'm sitting at and says, who are you? And I said, I'm from Cleveland. And she says, we heard about that boy. What happened to that boy? Talking about my friend. She said, I just want to let you know nobody's looking for the witnesses. And she said, can I pray with you? And I
Wow.
was like, pray for me, pray with me. She was like, yeah, you know God. And I was like, yeah. And she said she did a prayer. She was just saying, I don't remember every word she said. I really was not even closing my eyes or giving respect like I usually do. I was so thrown back, like, man, because she was about to die. And so she prayed and she was just like, I just asked for protection and healing over him, his family, and everybody involved. So I leave, and it was a couple of weeks later, my daughter was born. So um, the mother of my daughter, she had a C-section, and they gave her some, I guess they're called the opioids for the pain that she went through. She was going through
Hydrocodone.
hydrocodones. And at that time, I still wasn't sleeping. I was still angry. Every time I go to try to close my eyes, I would see my friend's face. I kept seeing it. So I didn't want to go to sleep. I was doing things to keep me up, drinking coffee, 4 cups of coffee. Like I was drinking energy drinks. There were 5-hour energies. It was big back then. I was constantly taking them. I was trying to stay up. And I at that time, she didn't want to take, the mother of my kids didn't want to take the opioids. So I had called a friend and said, hey, I knew he knew where to sell them at. So that's what we got into. Next couple of days, we were doing that, selling. On Wednesday, we started selling on Sunday. On Wednesday, I came to him and I was like, man, I have a bad headache. I go to pick him up. And I was like, man, I got a bad headache. I ain't been sleeping. I don't know what to do. I think I'm gonna go to the hospital. And he was like, man, take one of those. He was talking about the pills. Just take one. And so I did. And I took one, and it put this feeling of, it's almost like I had perfect energy. Like my headache went away. I felt boosted up, like, whoa, you know what I mean? And then so it made me instantly, I don't know if you call it addiction, but I wanted that feeling because I hadn't felt that way in a couple weeks. My friend just died. I haven't felt good and like calm in a while. And I took two more. Before the day was in it, I took two more. At the end of that week, I had a bottle of 90 on Wednesday. At the end of that week, I was buying the pills from other people. I had took so many. So I already knew I was in this because it gave me sleep, it numbed that pain I was feeling. You know what I mean? It just took over. It like made me not think about it. Took away my sense of reason. I was really upset that I couldn't even fully engage with my daughter because I was so messed up about my friend dying. He just died a month ago. So, and I couldn't really be happy around her, but them pills made me feel that way. So I thought that was my solution. That's what I did. And I was constantly taking them, constantly taking. Months go in, it became bad. I was already into Percocets now and Roxy 30s. It just became a spiral. I kept going back to back to back, taking them back to back to back, and it was bad. And it lasted. At that time, I was 23. I want to say 12 years. 12 years. I went on the same way. Well, not at that time. I'm pressing past, but I was in my 20s. I was probably 28 years old. I moved back to Florida, and I was still taking them, but not as strongly. You know what I mean? I just got out of the atmosphere, fear, and I don't know, even know a lot about drug addicts, but sometimes it takes some time. Like if you move to another state, it'll take you some time to find another dealer.
Right.
So that was probably a long time that I didn't take them, and I had met another girl, and we started having sex outside of marriage. I still wasn't saved. I was brought up in the church. I knew about God, but I was trying to push away from it. You know what I mean? We got together, and I started taking the pills more and more. I wasn't happy. And I just started taking them again. I finally found a new dealer. I started taking them. I had this job at a warehouse and I was rebuilding pallets. And it was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. And I was doing real good at it. So that gave me like an inspiration, like, oh, okay, I'm doing good, I'm working. So it took away this is wrong. You're still doing bad because you're taking pills. But I covered it up with, oh, I'm working though. I'm working the best job, making more money. I'm paying all my bills. But I just wasn't doing anything with my extra money. I was paying bills. All the extra money was going to drugs. And then the woman that I was with, she became pregnant. So this was my second daughter, Anaya. And she had a son. And at the time when I met her, he was, I want to say 6 months. His daddy had disappeared. And I don't know what it was, but it was like a real connection I had with. I always wanted a son, but I had a daughter first and never had a kid after. And then I met her. She had a son, and it was just an instant connection with me and him. He was just connected to me. And I just took on like he was mine. I never thought about him no other way. I was there with his first steps. He was literally mine. That's how I felt. Even though he had another father, his father never came around, and I don't know what his deal was. I don't really know him. I didn't really talk to him a lot, but I just said, "This is mine." His name was Zay. My son was named Zay, and 3 years old, my daughter was probably 1. He was 3, but I was at work. I get a phone call from, I don't know if it was my brother or the mother of my kids, but they were like, "There's something wrong with Zay." So I had my brother, who was staying with us at the time, come pick me up. And I can feel it when he came pick me up that he knew more that was going on. And I was like, "What is going on?" And he was like, "Man, I don't know. Zay just couldn't breathe. We found him. He couldn't breathe." And I was like, "What are y'all talking about?" You know what I mean? Because this stuff doesn't happen to me or in our family. It just didn't happen. Like, we don't have real bad things happen. You know what I mean? And I can't explain it. I guess my mother prayed for us so much, like things didn't really get serious happen. Like, it was a part of us that were drugs and stuff like that, but like death where you don't come back from, it didn't happen. And when I got there, I could see the ambulance leaving. I got to the house, I pulled to the house, I see the ambulance leaving, and I knew I got to go to the hospital. We get to the hospital, and at first they wouldn't let me in the back room. They wouldn't let me in the room. And I was to the point where, like, y'all better move. You know what I mean? It's more anger in there. I was like, y'all got to move. They let me back, and he had died, passed away. They said he had a fever seizure, and he drowned in the bathtub. So that was another thing. I couldn't handle it. It was one of the worst things I've ever felt, and I didn't know what to do. My bad.
Now you already taking your time.
But I wanted to do the right thing for the mother of my kids. I knew she was going through it. So, and I couldn't be there to take care of her emotionally. You know what I mean? So there were things that she was doing, and I can tell she wasn't the same person. You know what I mean? When he left. So I tried to take on more, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't, again, I'm this old and I don't know how to be a man. I don't know how to take care of family. I just knew about paying bills and trying to get money. And I didn't know how to handle any feelings. So all this stuff was coming back. My friend dying. Now I got a son that died, and I just couldn't handle it. It was just like destruction. It was destruction to me. And I was always taught, you go to hell when you kill yourself. I was always taught that. So it was almost like I was in my mind saying, I'm going to kill myself, but I didn't want people to say that's what he did. I was more worried about what they would say when I was gone. I wasn't worried about leaving. I felt like it was going to be at ease. There was too much on me, too much pressure. So I had a dealer who I used to buy Roxys from, and I don't remember how many. It was a lot. So they're 30 milligram. So it's almost, I don't know. I want to explain to people how much that is. Like, it's like taking 3 perk 10s in one pill. So I had 10 of those, 10 or 15 of them. And I remember saying, since I'm already taking these pills, people are just going to think, oh, he died from an overdose. They're not going to say he killed himself. I didn't want that saying of him kill himself, but I took 15, all 15. And I remember being slumped over, and I had all these thoughts about what was going on, but I couldn't. It wasn't like a pain of it. It was like, you need to do this. And I know I was drooped because I remember hearing people saying, Mike, 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 what you doing, bro? You know what I mean? It's like it happened a bunch before. I know the feeling of, like, the downing feeling of it, right? So, but I didn't die. I did that. It's like it was like things weren't working the way I wanted them to work. You know what I mean? All this stuff was happening. I couldn't get back on track. Um, then my son dies, and now I got to take care of his family with no blueprint of how to do it, how a man's supposed to do it. Nobody's helping me to do it. I don't even know who to turn to. I just want to go. It'd be easier for me just to go, but it wouldn't happen. And so uh, I just kept on the same thing. I was taking pills back to back. There were a bunch of times that I tried to kill myself with these pills, but it never happened. And soon, me and the mother of my kids split up. Um, it just wasn't working out. I wasn't in love with her, and then I couldn't take care of her the way she wanted me to. You know what I mean? So we split up. Um, I leave. Wound up going. Matter of fact, we she I left one day and I just took off. I didn't know where I was going. I just took off, and there was this other girl I used to work with. I told her to come pick me up, and she had a boyfriend, so I go chill with them three at the house, sit at the house with them. And my baby mama's trying to look for me. She's looking for me. I guess she winds up calling the police and saying that I hit her, and I wasn't nowhere near the house. And in Polk County, it's not like everywhere else. Like they got to do an investigation to see it's the first person to call. And the other person's guilty, no matter what. Like if I would have called, even when I wasn't nowhere near her, she would have went to jail. But I guess they had a warrant out, and you know what I mean. I didn't know anything about it, and I get picked up, and they say I got a warrant, and so I go to jail. They put me on probation. I'm out for like a month, and I'm so much into drugs. It's like I don't even care. I can't even think about what to do on probation. You know what I mean? I was high outrageously at that time, worse than I ever been. And I violated, and so I was out a month, violated, went back to jail for another 6 months. And when I get out, there was a rumor going around that she had already been messing with somebody else, and I already knew it was over. But then that was like a confirmation, like I gotta get out of here. So I go to Sarasota and try to stay with my mama. That didn't work. Wind up going to a homeless shelter. And I get out. They give me a certain amount of time, and I couldn't get a place in time. I was working at it you get paid for that day. So you work that day, you get paid that day. It's like, I forget what's called, People Ready or something like that. And
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
so I was doing that, and I finally got a hotel, and every day I had to work just to pay the hotel off to live there. And it was too much. It was almost like $3,000 a month I was paying at this hotel, and I didn't realize it because it was a daily I was paying. I'm thinking this is straight, $80, $90 a day. But I wound up being homeless for like a week. I slept behind the building for like a week, and I called one of my friends in Temple. My little brother was staying with him, and then we had a friend. He moved down here. Him and my brother was best friends, and he moved from Cleveland, Tennessee, down here to Florida after we moved. And so he had his own place, and my little youngest brother was staying with him, and I asked if I could stay with him. And now I became a felon. So I was trying to do the things the right way. I was starting over. All right, I need to find a job here. It wasn't working out. They weren't hiring me, especially with a violent record. They weren't people not hiring for that. And so it was just tough for me, and I was struggling. I was used to being like, and when things happen, I know what to do. I knew to get money. And I had a friend that said he could help me make money. And so he gave me a bag of pills, told me to sell them. They were fentanyl pills. So they looked like Roxy 30s, but they were really fentanyl. And so I take them, go to Tennessee, get dropped off. I started making so much money. At this time, I wasn't taking the fentanyl pills because I had heard, I didn't hear too many details of it. People were just dying. Like I was just hearing that around. Oh, people are dying from these, so I didn't take them. So I wasn't on the pills bad. I wasn't on like opioids and stuff like that. I was taking them randomly. Like when I get them, somebody would come up to me and be like, "Hey, I got these real perk 10s," and I take one. But it wasn't like a bad addiction. My mind was being consumed. Like I got to make this money, so I was running around, and now that was covering up the pain I had. It was like money, 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 money. I was buying shoes, and it was helping me feel that way. Even though I wasn't doing the right things with it, it was helping me get past this pain I still haven't dealt with. So I was continuously buying the fentanyls. I wind up, the biggest supply I had was probably a trash bag full. I remember sitting a trash bag in this hotel, and they were full, and the pills were probably the size of my pinky's nail. They were probably that size, and I had a trash bag full of them. So I had so much, and I was constantly selling them all the time. And I got to a point where I was nervous. You know what I mean? I couldn't trust people. It's just a lifestyle that you get into. I kept on thinking people were going to rob me because I was making so much money. Even friends that I was staying with, they were like, they weren't doing nothing wrong. It was the way my mind, it was attack, really. I know now it was Satan attacking me to tell me certain things that were happening. And I was like, oh, yeah, you going to try to rob me. And so I went out to another friend's house that I really trusted, which was the people that I told you about that did the music. And they lived out in the country. They had moved out in the country in Tennessee. I believe it was McMinnville. And so I went out there and I wound up getting stuck out there. And at this time, the people didn't know about these fentanyl pills. So I had a bag of fentanyl pills that I couldn't sell because nobody knew who it was, what they were. And I could have lied and said, these are Roxy 30s, but I just wasn't that person. I wasn't going to kill people. I wanted them to know what they were. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't sell them. And I was just sitting there constantly bored, and all this stuff started happening again. I wasn't on no pills at the time, but as I sit in that house idle-minded, I started thinking about my friend dying, my son. Like my father had passed, I think a couple months before my son had passed, and I never went to go see him. So that was another thing that I was dealing with too. Like, man, I never got to go talk to him. And it's been years since I was 12. Last time I seen him, I never went to go talk to him. So that was another thing that was piled up on me. And I wound up cutting a little slice off of a pill and taking it. And that was the end of it for me. I just next couple of days, it was the same reoccurring thing, same cycle. I was taking the whole pill, pop, 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 and I had so many. I didn't feel like it was bad because I wasn't wasting money on them. They were free to me. So I was like popping them, popping them, popping them, and I got really bad. And my friend who was letting me stay there, he was really like the person. He wasn't a drug addict, but he was that person that'd be like, "Man, Mike, what are you doing? What are you, you know what I mean?" So I would have to be cautious around him. So he was uh the consequence, I guess you say. You know what I mean? He was almost like an older brother, a father type. Like he was there to say, "Stop, you need to stop." And I didn't want him to know when I was doing stuff. I would always try to hide it. So it slowed my taking of these pills. It slowed it a little bit. But he goes to jail. Um, he's like this. He at the time he was like trying to really dig into the Moorish. I don't know really too much about it, but like being a Moor, sovereign people of the United States, and all this stuff he was doing. So he starts going off on the judge, and they lock him up for 10 days. And that 10 days, I was by myself in this room, and that's where it went bad. I had taken so many of them that I was almost empty. The pills was almost gone, and I had a bag of them. And I was taking so many, and he gets out 10 days later. He sees me, and he comes to me and he says, "Mike, man, my kids look at you like an uncle, and every day they come in here, they have to see you and the way you are like this, like you shouldn't be doing this in front of them." And it like clicked something in my mind, like, man, I gotta straighten up. But I still wasn't like, I'm gonna do this. It was just like it made me realize what he was saying because I had a lot of respect for him. And one day he locks the door on me when I'm sleeping. So I guess he comes in, he takes the rest of the pills, locks the door. And so when I go to try to open the door, he had a lock on the outside of it. And he was like, you're not coming out until you get ready. I'll send you food in there and everything, but you got to break this addiction. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Even though I knew I could get out, it was like he was like telling me, bro, you need to do this. He was really concerned, so I knew it was bad if he was coming to me saying stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna break it. So I went through a 3 day. Um, I was trying to get the pills out of my system 3 days, and it was probably worse I've ever had. and I almost felt sick of like every day I was just like I didn't have no energy. I couldn't eat. I felt like my throat was closing up. I was puking up blood, black, like it was just bad. And plus, I was smoking back to back Black and Miles constantly. So now I couldn't smoke because I only smoked because these this opioid reaction to them. So it was like it made me feel like I was getting higher. And so now that I don't have this high, I'm having a bad reaction to all this stuff. So I finally made a decision like I gotta come back to my family. Um I gotta get out of here. I gotta just get out of here. I even gave him the rest of the pill, told him he could do whatever with them. And I left. And the mother of my kids picks me up from Tampa Airport, and we stop at my brother's house where he lived at, where I used to live in Tampa with my family friend. And so when I stopped there, they had somebody else there, and he was like real deep into marijuana and THC. So I don't know too much about it. I wasn't really a big heavy weed smoker. I did smoke, but I wasn't like a big deep weed smoker. And I was telling him, man, I'm going through these withdrawals from fentanyl, and it's bad. I'm feeling sick. I just want to get somewhere. And he says, "Let me see your finger," and he puts this liquid THC. I don't know how much is in there, what it was, but I took a one little lick of it, and I was like, oh, I didn't like the taste. I was like, oh, so I wipe it off with my pants, just one little lick, one little tiny lick, and I was like, man, that's nasty. I'm leaving. So that my brother was warning me. He was like, Mike, you gonna have a bad reaction. Um, just don't think about it too much. I didn't understand what he meant. I was like, well, I'm straight. I've been smoking, you know what I mean? I've been smoking before you. You know, I try to be like big brother. I've been smoking before you even knew what we was, you know what I mean? So I get in the car with my baby mama. We on the way back from Tampa to Lakeland where she stays. And it was almost like taking a hallucinogenic. Like my brain started to come up with all this stuff that was happening that I thought was happening. It started creating these things and like reality, like it was reality. My baby mother was singing a song, and it was a breakup song, which she always does, and she pointed at me like a gun point. It was always like, you know, like she was singing a song, but she was pointing at me. And in my mind, I was like, this girl's trying to set me up and kill me. So we were driving. She gets off on an exit before her exit to her house off the highway. And she said she was trying to help me, I guess, with my blood sugar. I had checked my blood sugar at this time. It was 56. So it was low. I was diagnosed as diabetic when I was 13. So I've dealt with it all the time, and I can feel that it was dropping. And so I checked it, and it was 56 at this time before we got off the highway. She pulls into a Dollar General, and while we're pulling in, I see these cars like doing like they were driving like this. We were in the middle of the hood. So that's what they do. People do that. They get these nice cars and they do kind of crazy stuff all the time. But in my mind, I'm like, this girl set me up. She didn't call these people. They're gonna try to kill me. It's because uh as my mind was recreating, it's like when I was taking back when I was selling the drugs. I was thinking these people were trying to rob me, but they really not a lot of people would try to, even though I did try to, but not this. My mind was saying people that I knew were trying to rob me. So when I seen these cars doing this, I was like, oh, she's trying to set me up. And she goes into the store, and I look over, I see somebody with a gun in the car. Now we're in the hood, you see that all the time anyway. So, and I'm thinking, oh, this dude is with her, with my baby mama, trying to set me up. So the first thing I do is I get on the phone, 911. And while I'm talking to 911, I guess they can tell that something was happening because they weren't taking me serious. Like, oh, okay. Like, it was like, oh, what are you talking about? They probably used to dealing with people that was high. And I was like, she's trying to kill me. She's trying to kill me. Like, where you at? I started telling her. And then when I see her come out of the store, I see the car that's on the side of me. It backed up a little bit, and I take off running. Now, before all this happened, before I called 911, I checked my blood sugar. It wouldn't read. It says low. So that means it was probably under 30. So I'm waiting for her to bring me something back. When this car pulls back, I'm like, I gotta go. And I take off running. Cross the street, cross the highway. I don't even look for cars. I'm running. I'm thinking these people trying to kill me. I'm thinking somebody's chasing me now. I mean, it was just bad. It was bad. And I winded up on these railroad tracks. And then I see these four guys that were walking on the railroad tracks, kind of younger. They were probably in their 20s, early 20s. And I was like, hey, man, I'm trying to find this way. And one of the guys said something smart. And in my mind, I'm like, because I was on this, whatever this drug was, hallucinogenic weed, I was like, oh, they trying to kill me. And I hit them, punch them. Next thing you know, they start jumping me, kicking me, beating me up while I'm on the thing. Now, I just want to make sure y'all know that my blood sugar is at low. Before I even started running, my blood sugar said low. So it wasn't reading. It couldn't even read. It was so low. And now I ran, I don't even know how far. And now I'm getting jumped by some kids, group of 4 kids getting jumped. And then I still get up. They don't knock me out or anything, but they run off. And I guess they took my shoes. I had a pair of retro Jordans 12s on, and they took them. So while I'm walking, I'm on railroad tracks, and it's all wooded area on the side. And while I'm walking, I'm just thinking in my mind, like, this is it. This is really it. Like, I'm gonna die. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I gotta find something. And I see a train on the railroad tracks. It would just stop there. And so I had these flatbeds that were on the back of it. So I was like, all right, just I could lay down here, because I was like terrified to lay down on the rocks and snakes probably come up. I mean, we in Florida. So I was like, man, okay, I can lay on the back of these beds. And I go, and when I lay down, I can feel myself going. I've had diabetic attacks where my blood sugars go low, but this time it was different. Like I was like, this is the end. I can feel it. And I started thinking about my daughters. I was like, they gonna look at me and talk about me almost like I do my father. Like I was never there. I never did nothing for them. Like, and it just hurt. It was distress. It was bad. And I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't do this. I need to do something. I need to do something. And all the training my mother did when we was younger, it just clicked in. And immediately I was like, I believed in heaven and hell. You know what I mean? I never not believed in heaven and hell. And I said, Jesus, help me, please. I'm sorry. And I was like, help me. I said, help me again. By the time I was done saying help, I went into a coma. And I blacked out. And the next thing happened, I woke up, and I had these the guys that check, I guess every stop they check the trains. I don't know what they call them, but they had flashlights, and it was nighttime. And they were like, get up, get up. We need you to get up off the train, get up off the train. And I was like, man, what's going on? And I woke up, and I was like, where am I at? They said, Jacksonville. And I was like, what time is it? And they were like 9 o'clock at night. Now, at the time all this stuff happened, it was like 3 in the afternoon. I remember when I checked my blood sugar, I remember the time saying 3. So we talking about a 6-hour drive on this train that I was on the back out. And so I was like, my mouth is dry. I was like, you got any water? They gave me some water, and I was like, call 911, because I was diagnosed with diabetic, and this, I could feel it. It's hurt. I need help. And so in my mind, I'm still thinking, my blood sugar low, but I can feel it. It's high. I can just feel it. I'm dehydrated. I'm like, man, that doesn't happen. Blood sugars just don't go up. So the ambulance finally gets there. It takes them a minute because of where I was at on the railroad tracks. It was like this back end. They had to drive so far to the back of this place. It was like a dock area for these trains. And they checked my blood sugar. My blood sugar read 650. It had shot up to 650. Regular is 80 to 120. It shot up to 650. And I get into the hospital, and they start giving me insulin. I start feeling better. I know they can tell that I was dealing with withdrawals, but I didn't really feel the effects of withdrawals because of all the stuff that was happening. It was like I wasn't thinking about the stuff. You know what I mean? So I wanted to call and call my family and tell them what happened, that I'm in Jacksonville. I need help getting back. But I didn't remember any numbers. I had threw my phone away because when I was running, I'm thinking they're gonna track my phone and find me. So I just threw it. And now I don't have no phone. And my mom was programmed to look at names and see the number. And I didn't look up numbers. I didn't remember numbers. I just clicked names. So when I don't have no phone, I'm like, oh man, I don't know nobody's number by heart. How to call? I don't know how to call anybody. So there was like a social worker that was at the hospital, and she was going to help me find a place. So I told her the story, what happened, and she said, "Well, there's a shelter here in Jacksonville. We're gonna send you there." And I was like, "Okay." They send me. Now at this time, I don't have any insulin. I don't have a phone. I don't even have shoes, and so I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was like, I had to find some stuff to do. I needed something to do. At the end of that night, I at the shelter, my sugar had rose high again, so I had to call 911 again so I can get insulin. It was because I mean I'm that's bad to get it too high. It's bad. So I go back to the hospital and I see the same social worker. She was like, "What can we do?" And I was like, "I don't know. Can you look up names?" So I started giving her names of my sisters, my mama. We started trying all these numbers. Um, they write me a prescription to the Walmart because um, in the state of Florida, I had government insurance through my baby's mother. I still was on the insurance plan, so my insurance would cover the Walmart because I used Walmart in Tampa. So it was all I have to do is transfer the information to them. I didn't need any wallet or anything. So I went back to the uh, shelter and I realized I can't find out how to get to Walmart. I'm not from Jacksonville. I can't even use GPS. I don't have no phone. So I asked one of the guys. He was in a wheelchair too. I just want to point that out. But he was like, "In the morning, I'll take you to the Walmart." I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, okay. But at this time, before this night was ended, I was planning on like, this is where I'm gonna be at. I'm gonna have to work, get an ID, make some money, and then get back to. I wasn't even like I'm going in a rush to get back. I was like, this is where I'm gonna be at now. Jacksonville. I just landed here. No shoes, no clothes, nothing. And I was like, this is where I'm gonna be at. And end of the night, my blood sugars rise again because I have no insulin. I go back to the hospital, and while I'm in the hospital, it just comes to me. Let me call my number. So I called my number, and it goes straight to voicemail. And I remember the code that I made for my voicemail, even though I never use it outside. I remember the code. I pressed in to check my voicemails, and I do it. Press it in, and all these messages from my family, my sisters would leave a message. "Where you at, mate?" Because while I was on this car drive, I was texting them. "I need y'all to help me. She's trying to kill me." Calling them up. I was calling family members like, "Help me." That's the last messages they got from me. So we talking about days, 3 days, 4 days. Nobody's hearing from me. So I guess my sister Jenny had a search party looking for me. I had no idea. I didn't get in contact with nobody, but everybody was out looking for me. They had made flyers. Everybody was looking for me. And then when I called my mother. The first person I called was my mom, and I told her. And so she calls the police because I guess the police were looking for me, and says we found him. So my mother was going to send me money through Western Union, and so I can come back, so I can get a ticket and just come back. And there was a Walgreens right across the side of me, and at Western Union, in order to send money, you don't need your ID. You can put a test question, and they'll give it to you if you know the test question. So that's what I did. And while I'm sitting in there putting in my information, I see about 10 police officers come in the front door. So I'm like, man, what's going on, man? I already heard about a lot of stuff about Jacksonville. I was like, oh, Lord, something about to go down here in Jacksonville. They walk up to me and say, "Hey, Mr. Dorsey, you're not supposed to leave the hospital. We need you to come back." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I signed the release form. She gave me the release form to leave." And he was like, "No, he wasn't supposed to leave yet." And I was like, "Oh, man, what are you talking about? It's not a jail." As soon as I walk out the door, they put me in handcuffs and said I have a warrant in Polk County. I said, a warrant? What are you talking about? This now I just got out the hospital. All this stuff is happening. This is a pile up of stuff that's happening back to back. So they locked me up. I go downtown. I think it was like 2 days, and they had to transfer me back to Polk County. So I had to take I guess like a 3-hour trip drive back to Lakeland, Florida. And when I went there, I found out the warrant was because child support, which I had not paid. Obviously, I was doing all these drugs while out. I wasn't paying like I was supposed to. I was supposed to go to court, and I never went because I had no residency. So I didn't get any mail anywhere. I didn't know, you know what I mean? I don't know where they sent it, but they told me I was supposed to go to court. I never got the letter, and I had a warrant. So my sister, Jenny, and her husband, Steve, came and got me, and got me out of jail. And before I got out, I'm thinking everything's okay, but there were some things that happened in the jail. They was telling that I guess some lady had made a mistake and told my mother that I wasn't getting out till December. Like I was gonna be until December. I was like, what? I already knew that wasn't true. None of no child support. They're not gonna hold me for that long. And she had made a mistake. So my mother was stressing out about it. And when I made the phone call to tell my sister, hey, I'm released, she says that my mother was in a hospital in Sarasota, Florida. She had a brain aneurysm. This is right when I'm getting out of release. I'm just finding all this out. And I was like, I didn't know too much about a brain aneurysm. I didn't know what it was, but I know my mom was strong. You know what I mean? Stuff be happening. We bounced back. So I was like, oh, she'll be all right. But when I got to the hospital, I've just seen all the stuff in her. She had tubes. It was stuff in her brain. They had to do an operation in her brain. And I was like, my mama ain't going to be the same. That's what I was thinking. And I was thinking like, this is my fault. I got to cause all this hell. My mama done stress. You know what I mean? So I it took a couple of days and she started getting back consciousness. She woke up out of it. We were going to visit her every day. 2-3 days. My sister was at a church. I think it's called Nations. It's in Orlando, and she was the choir director. And the pastor there, my brother-in-law said, "Hey, I want the pastor to pray for you." So when he was praying for me, he asked me, "Do I want to be saved?" And I had been through this before, but this time I was like, I got to do it. I got to make a change. You know what I mean? I was just like, something's got to happen. Something got to be broken from me because next time this ain't going to be fun. It's going to be over with. And I accepted Christ in my life at that time. And because my sister had already built the foundation of God, like being around her, I know it was all this stuff happened, like me to come to her, to my sister and her husband, to be around them. I knew it was meant, God meant that to happen because I could have got saved anywhere, but I would have went right back to what I know, comfortability. But being around them, like it rooted me in God. You know what I mean? I got to see the results of it. My patience wasn't good. Like if I had to ask God for something and it took too long for him to do it, I'm doing it myself. I knew he was real, but I didn't have a lot of faith in his works. Mm-hmm. But being around my sister and her husband, I was like, okay, I can see certain things happening. You know what I mean? I can see my life getting better. I can see, I looked at how they were living because I know them before, what they were doing before. And I was like, if they can do this, then I can do it. You know what I mean? So I really got myself rooted in God. And my mom she moved to my other sister's house in Gainesville. Right now she's walking around, she's getting better. She's good. And a year in, I got my own place. And I really hit the gym hard. It was like something else for me. It was like I couldn't. My first thing was to build the relationship back with my daughters, but there was restrictions behind that, and I couldn't control it. So I wanted to do something that I could control, that I could see the result of, and it was the gym. You know what I mean? So my brother-in-law really got me into it. He was like, let's go to the gym. And that was, I was like, okay. I had worked out a while back before this, but now I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do. This is my goal. I'm gonna get my weight up. I'm gonna get my body back right. I'm gonna start working on my body. And it started to help my focus. Once I started getting it, it started to help my focus, and I started seeing the results because 13 years I was addicted to opioids. All my 20s, I was a drug addict. And the effects that have, a lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of effects of these drugs, it deteriorates your brain. People don't see the effects of it until later on in life. Probably when you get off, you can tell you're thinking, you know what I mean? Your memory starts to go out. It's just little stuff that it does. And I didn't never think it was a problem because I was always a right now type of person. I never thought about future stuff. I never thought about things like that. But when I was working out, it helped my focus, and it helped me like um focus on the relationship with my daughter. Like my daughter, she's at the time she was probably uh 12, just turning 12.
And this
And
was three years ago.
yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
Well, 2 years ago, because this is a year in, I was already starting to work out, but I started really seeing the results probably a year in after I
All right,
was
so
sober.
hold on. So let me talk about this. So a
Okay.
year in, so you're clean at this point. No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes, no nothing. You was just able to just stop just like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, before we get into the next part of your story, I want to talk about some stuff because you said three things. You said a lot, man. And I love the way that you tell your story because when we first was talking about this, you was like, man, I'm not like a speaker. And just by the way that you tell it, it just seemed like you just done this a lot before. And it reminds me of when someone had asked me to share my testimony. Like I was the same way. I was like, oh no, like, you got the wrong person. I ain't about to be getting up there and tell all these people my business. But when I began to speak, it just flowed. And then that's what I see with you. But three things that you had said. You said you was talking about the peace that you didn't have in that lifestyle. And for people that watch this that has lived that lifestyle, they'll know what you're talking about because when you're on probation or when you're selling drugs or when you're fighting, like I just remember I would have to consistently drink and use drugs just because I've done so much stuff. I'm always looking over my back, and then probation come around and then they drug test you. And it's just like you're never in a place of true peace. And it's interesting because on this side of life with Jesus, the Bible says he's the Prince of Peace. And the Bible also says, taste and see that the Lord is good. And when you really taste this side of life, like you realize there's nothing worth it when it comes to compromising that peace. I was just talking to somebody a couple of hours before we started recording, and I was telling them because there's an event that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'll do this, but as soon as something come up, and any situation that, and it's just like a group of people. I was like, if y'all start, I'm pretty much saying y'all getting on my nerves, come up against the peace that I got now, I'm gonna have to go, just because I never knew what true peace was until, I really started to trust God. And another thing that you had said is about, you had mentioned the word comfort. And, when we are doing drugs and drinking and doing the things of the world, what we're actually looking for as men is comfort, you know, and then again, the Bible calls the Holy Spirit the comforter. And
Right.
so it's one thing that I look at when I hear your story, and then even my story, is that we're looking for Jesus and don't even realize that he's the answer. But like you said, on this side of the walk, you said when God take too long, you just go do it yourself because we have to have faith. And the thing about the enemy, when we are living a life and we are serving the enemy, you will get things quick.
Yeah.
But then also there's always something that's gonna reap after that. But when it comes to God, this is a walk of faith, because the Bible says we walk by faith and not by sight. And so true faith, what I'm realizing with this walk is not just about us praying about something and it happens the next week or the next day, but it's you praying and things are not changing, but you still believe. So I want to ask you now is like, what has life been like for you since you've been walking with Jesus? Like, how has it been the past couple of years?
Um, it's just been different. Like, it's I don't want to say it's been easier because I don't want a lot of people, but I have a lot of stuff that is I'm able to deal with now that I'm sober. I felt like I couldn't do before. But like when I pray, it's like God is he working on my patience. I can't really explain it. It's like certain things that he does. He puts it out there that oh your patience need to be worked on. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I don't hear God audibly. It's certain things like I'm hard headed. And certain things I gotta learn the hard way. And I feel like he knows that. You know what I mean? He like there's certain things I'm not gonna let you fall all the way off, but you're gonna have to learn this way, and this is how you're gonna learn. And now I see results of it. Like it's just certain things that I've done. You know what I mean? And people that been brought into my life, like my sister, my sister and her husband have definitely been a big thing for me. Like I needed that. You know what I mean? Because I would have went back. I would have definitely went back. I just know I would have went off. It would have been, and this time it probably wouldn't have been no coming back. So, but I've had a lot of issues. I feel like more stuff I've been more attacked when I'm saved than before I was saved. You know what I mean? Even though I tell you this story, all this stuff, we talking about long periods of time that I was comfortable. And that's what I was doing my whole life, chasing comfortable, being trying to be comfortable all the time, my whole life. And now it's like now that I'm sober, and I'm saved and I'm constantly dependent on God, I see the results. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain. I can't explain it. I'm not a good person like putting stuff into words, but I can see he works. He's real. He's real. Even though I've been brought up in the church, I never seen it. I never seen it with my mother. Things she prayed for, I've never seen it happen. You know what I mean? Or I just didn't know. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It could have happened for her, what she needed. I don't know specific things she prayed for, but I didn't see these things that were happening. I felt like, man, she been praying to God, and we can't even get food on the table. We don't have nothing. It's wild. Like I'm not gonna do this. But a lot of this stuff is happening. Like my life is just coming together. And even though I'm late in my age because I wasted so much time of it, I don't even have the feeling like, oh, I'm getting to, I don't have that urgency to rush, like, go. I know that's my patience God working on. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I'm just give it to God. It's God's. I just give it all to Him. And a lot of times I have made mistakes since I've been saved. It's been a learning process and it's been a struggle. Friends I don't want to cut off, I've had to cut off just to see, like, I like first year I was saved, I was constantly calling them, man, y'all all right? How you doing? Y'all don't man, listen, man, bro, I'm praying for you every day. I'm talking to them constantly and I don't get the same back. You know what I mean? And it's not a bad thing. It's okay. People go in their separate ways, but it's opened up my mind to know this has to happen. God, I have to have godly surroundings. And so now I'm to the point like if I get on the phone with you, even if they call, if I get on the phone with you and you're talking stuff outside around that's not has to do with my religion, we can't talk. And I'm gonna
Come
let
on,
them know.
man. Come on.
So I just have to because God done so much for me, it's no going there's nothing that can turn me back. You know what I mean? I know the devil's gonna keep trying, but there's not anything I see, especially with all the stuff that I've been through in my life. These things, even though these are hard things I went through when I'm saved, it's easier to roll with them. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
God, I don't even ask God to change it anymore. I'd be like, God, just give me the wisdom to to conquer this situation. Just give me the wisdom. Show me what I need to do. Whatever I need to learn. I know this is a learning process. Whatever I need to learn from this, give me the wisdom to do that. I don't even ask them to take it away no more. Which I was raised like that. Oh, everything was the devil. My mama was not no game. It don't matter what. The cars driving down the street loud. She was like, these devils go. You know what I mean? She don't play games. But I'm at the point where I'm like, some of this stuff ain't the devil. Everything ain't the devil to me. And some of this stuff I need to go through it. And I have a lot of restrictions on it. And I'm seeing my daughter like this year. I've been praying. When I first got saved, that was my biggest prayer with my daughters. You know what I mean? I didn't pray for the baby mamas. I had some type of thing towards them, like, man, because I mean, they were part of me not talking to my daughter. And but this year was the first year since I've been saved that she messaged me out the blue and said, Happy Father's Day on Father's Day. And I know I can tell the way when I made it with this long message, she just gave me a thumbs up. I can tell she doesn't understand. She just thinks it's simple, but that was a big thing for me. You know what I mean? It made me so happy. I know the neighbors were like, man, I was in there putting music on, like, Lord, thank you, Lord. You know what I mean? I know they heard it. And I don't really do that. I don't really get loud. I'm trying to be the center of nothing. But I was just like, man, God's moving. You know what I mean? Even though I
Right.
see these things that's happening, God's moving. And like I'm almost finished with my schooling. So, and I'm gonna be a physical trainer, be training people, which I love to do. I love the gym. It's what I do. And now I'm gonna be training, and that's another income that's coming in that's gonna help me. My sister is talking about helping me to get my license back at the end of December. So I mean, I haven't had my license in probably 9 years. I've been riding with no license all the time, or I'll get somebody to come pick me up. You know what I mean? And now, so everything is coming back slowly, but it's coming back. And now I'm able to see these results of being loyal and sticking to what I'm supposed to do, like sticking to God, being loyal to Him. And I didn't see that before. I didn't have no patience for it. It would be like I pray, and if it didn't happen in 2 weeks, all right, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go do it myself. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, okay, slow it down. Don't let the devil come into you. Every time I get these thoughts, I know, well, okay, this devil trying to make me doubt my father after he done so much for me.
Come on.
He trying to make me doubt him. He's just, I mean, foolish. But everything's just coming together now. And I just feel it like not having no drugs, not being on no drugs, no cigarettes, not it just everything, you know what I mean? Everything. So I'm just happy. Even with
I'm
all I'm
happy
going
for you, man. You said you've been praying for wisdom, and I hear wisdom because people don't realize when you were talking about watching your surroundings and stuff like that, when we are around people, whether if we're in their presence or if we are just having a phone conversation, there's a spiritual deposit that's made. Because there's been times when, I'm on a prayer call, I come off that prayer call, I'm feeling like dynamite, because a spiritual deposit was made. But then at the same time, I can be believing God for a business. I can be believing God for a book. Then I can talk to someone on the phone. Their faith is not where I'm at. And then they're saying, well, I don't know how you're going to do this because X, Y, and Z. They made a spiritual deposit in my life. Now, even when it comes to my past, because there's familiar spirits, I can get around people that can say certain things because there's somebody influencing the other, whether I'm influencing them or they're influencing me. And if it comes to negativity or something that I used to struggle with, they can make a spiritual deposit in my life. And when you were talking about patience, it's good that you're learning to trust the process because we don't never know what God is up to. And like I was telling you last night, when I was in this, I was in a year where I felt like a drought of God not answering well, I'm not gonna say no prayers, but the things that I wanted the most, He wouldn't answer because I realized what God was doing in that season where He was building patience. He was wanting me to really get to know who He was. Because like I was saying, before, I didn't say it on this video, but when me and you was talking on the phone, if I meet someone that I don't know just from the street and they're in need, I give them $1,000, they might dap it up with me, but I probably would never see them again. But if I keep them around me for a while and I let them know my character and I let them know that I'm loyal, that I'm faithful, that I'm good, that they can trust me, I can give them $10 million and I'll see them the next day because they built that relationship. And so sometimes God is really in the process of us waiting. He's trying to show us his character and who he is. But then at the same time, there comes a time in life where you never know what God is going to do with you when it comes to, ministry wise, or the people that you're going to be dealing with. And he'll use everything. Like, nothing will be wasted, but it's the patience that we learn in one season that we'll end up using in another season to glorify God. But in closing, I want to ask you, for somebody that may watch this video and they're struggling with different things that you talked about, because in the beginning you was talking about uh identity that was birthed from rejection, so you was kind of like looking in the world for something that you didn't get in your childhood. But then you had talked about, the depression that you went through and the addiction and stuff like that. So for any man or woman that may watch this and they're dealing with some of this stuff, what words of encouragement could you give for them?
I would say first, blueprint is not needed. I mean, if this is just for the men, like, and if you trying to be a father, a blueprint's not needed. You know what I mean? Um, God will guide you. Everybody's different with their kids, and people are different, but God knows you, knows your heart, and He's gonna guide you to be. And there's gonna be mistakes you make when your kid is 25, 30. There's gonna be certain things. It's never gonna be perfect. And as far as like finding identity, I would just say give it time. Don't rush it. Don't rush it, and look to God to guide you to the right ring. That's the best thing to do, is to let God guide you. I know sometimes it's hard because you don't see it in person, but I just know He works. And just if you give it time, you'll see the results. That's it. I mean, I really can't explain it. Like my brother, I want to say this. My brother, before he got saved, um, he he used to call, and certain things were happening, and I used to tell him like, bro, my mama, God told my mama that all her kids were gonna be saved, and so it took me almost to die, literally alone behind on a train with nobody around, for me to wake up and come up and be like, okay, I got to change my life. This is it. But and so I'll be telling them, either you gonna do it the easy way or the hard way. Just pick it, which one. But you're gonna come to God. So that's what I was telling everybody. Man, if you got to pulling towards God just a little bit, that's God trying to He's trying to give you some kind of clue. Like, come on, this is where you're supposed to be. And just make a decision and go. Life just gets better with time. It's gonna get better. Everything's gonna happen good, man. You don't have to worry about fear and depression and pressure, constantly stress. Like these things, you don't got to worry about that every single day. You can look to God and say, God, help me and guide me through it, and He's going to do it. He's going to make it. But when you're in that world, it might go away for a couple of days, but it's coming back.
That's right. That's right,
So
man. I appreciate that word. And I'm proud of you, man, too, because I got the before and after picture that's gonna go up, and to see you now and to hear your story and just to see that smile. And then also too, just some stuff that we was talking about, just to know that you not just working out at the gym, but you up there praying for people. You live in a celibate life. You are not just speaking the word, but you're living it. You know what I mean? And something that happens when we are in that lifestyle is we develop something that we was talking about before, demonic faith. Because of my addiction, because it was so bad, and I feel like I lived in Egypt for so long, I was bound to this stuff. I had faith for the drugs. I had even faith in the identity that I took on, because a lot of people said I was crazy because of the stuff that I did. But I had faith in that. I had faith in my addiction. I had faith in my lust. I had faith in my depression. You know what I mean? But to just see you here and just even to know my story is just, you know, I know it should be encouraging for other people, because if God could do it for us, He could do it for anybody. So I'm gonna end this as I always do. I just thank you for your time, telling your story, because I know you did this for God. you know, sometimes people want to be on camera, they want to be seen, and that wasn't your situation. You was just doing this so God could be glorified. So I just want to encourage any person that may watch this video, just so you know, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what you're struggling with, just know that you can be free, because who the Son has set free is free indeed. And we love y'all, and we are out.